So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. And welcome you back here at BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Tuesday, December 1st. Hope everybody's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, December. It is officially December 1st today. It's crazy. I feel like I was just talking about it being the beginning of November and talking about how football was so meaningful in November. Well, I was saying that football is very meaningful in November, and it is even more meaningful in December, but we can have a good idea. Like I said, coming out of November, you have a good idea of who's in, who's out, and who's going to be that team that could come down to the final weeks of the season. And we have a couple of those teams. You know, a team like the Dolphins, for example. You know, a team like the Dolphins. A team like the Buccaneers. Who knows if they're going to... I mean, they probably will get in, but they're a team that we're still trying to figure out what spot they're going to get into. More than likely, they ain't going to win the division. Are they going to squeak into the 1 or 2, 3 wild card? Where are they going to go? That's an interesting one. Who's going to win the NFC West? That's still up in the air. All teams are still technically in it. I would venture to say that the Seahawks at now are probably the front runner, especially after yesterday's win. And the Rams and the Cardinals both lost. But still, even that division is still up in the air. So you got still a lot of questions to go. But for a team that opened up November like the Detroit Lions, who were in contention, are now more than likely out. A team like the Broncos are more than likely out. So, you know, a team like the Raiders, too, they're on the cusp. They're 6-5. They're in the middle, right? They're probably in right now, but that could very well change. So we got a very, very, very good... November was a very, very, very good sports month, I should say. It was a very good sports month. We had college basketball start up. We had the NBA, or not the NBA, the NFL, obviously. So it is the start of December, holiday season, all that good stuff in December. A lot of good sports on. NBA starts in December. NFL is still in full swing. And the NFL season ends January 3rd, I think, is the final NFL Sunday. So, you know, we're just almost a month. We're literally a month and 2 days away from the NFL season being over and heading into the playoffs. So it's going to be another entertaining month for sports. Hopefully you guys are all looking forward to it. Like I am. Big game tonight with Kentucky. I did decorate my studio, as you could tell, put like ornaments there, Christmas hat there, Christmas tree here. So I said that I would obviously decorate it, being it was Christmas and stuff. So I waited till December 1st, obviously, because it is December. We're now, 24 days away from Christmas? Or, yeah, if you want to count today. I know some people won't count today, won't count tomorrow, whatever. Technically, we're 24 days away from Christmas now. So we are, we're in full swing here. So it is the start of month. It is the start of December. And these are the first topics of the month, and these are the topics for today. We got the Monday night game of last night. We'll talk about the Monday night game, give you my thoughts on it. It was another meh game, much better than Sunday night's game, I'll tell you that for sure. But it was definitely a very meh game. It was not anything crazy. It wasn't a nail biter, but it also wasn't awful like the game, but like the Sunday night game where it was done by halftime. This game was pretty close. I had a feeling that the Seahawks were going to win this game. I think even by halftime we did, but it was definitely much more entertaining than going into the halftime with the Packers winning 27-10. It was only 14-6, but the Seahawks did take the win. We got fantasy football as well. We'll talk about some fantasy football, Monday night game, and my game picks a little bit as well. Then we got NBA training camp week. This week, today, is the first day of NBA training camp. Going to be very exciting. I'm excited. Hopefully you guys are as well. We're going to be covering a lot of it on this show within the next couple of days, so it's going to be very, very, very fun. We're going to talk a little bit about the Nets, the Knicks. I don't want to give you a full-on season preview, but I'm going to kind of give you what to look forward to in training camp, kind of what to expect, what to look forward to, things to watch out for. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, what are they doing together? How is Kevin Durant going to do coming back? Everyone said in his training he's looked very good, but now when you put him into scrimmages and team drills, what is he going to look like? That could be a question we answer today. or I can I could guess what the answer might be today. And then same thing with the Knicks. What are their young rookies going to do? What is Quickly going to do? What is Topman going to do? What are these young guys going to do? Is RJ Barrett going to make progress? Last season he had a good year. Is he going to make more progress? What is he going to do, right? A big deciding year this year is Kevin Knox. He's been average. He's been meh. I've been a big believer in the Knicks have not used him the right way. What is he going to do this season? It's a big year as well. And also just some of the guys they added in free agency. What are they going to do? Some questions to answer. Same thing with the Nets. Same thing with the Nets. Their draft picks weren't, but even their free agency. Is Shamet going to really bring that 3-point stuff we are used to seeing? What are these teams going to do? We're going to give you that. I don't want to give you a season preview and predict their record and stuff, but I am going to give you something to look out for in training camp. What is KD going to look like? All that kind of stuff, because you'll find that out in training camp. We're still 21 days away from the NBA season, which isn't, it's 3 weeks, and we're 3 weeks away, which is definitely close. But still, I don't want to sit here and tell you I'm going to predict the schedule. I'll do that probably on either the day of the season opening or whatever, but we're going to kind of give you a little bit of the preview on training camp. Then we'll go to college basketball, and tonight, a big game on tonight, Kentucky and Kansas. I'm not too confident that Kentucky's going to win this game, but I'm always trying to hold out for hope. It's different with Kentucky and the Jets because Kentucky has proven to me the past couple years that they can actually win games and get to good places. So obviously, obviously just kind of that kind of stuff. So it's going to be interesting there. And then Kentucky and Kansas as well are going to be a fun game. Like I said, we'll talk about that. But there's a lot of, there's a lot of good college basketball games on today. We got the Michigan State Duke game's going to be good. 2, I'm pretty sure, top 10 teams there. And we got a top 10 team and a top 20 team in Kentucky and Kansas. Kentucky's lost to Richmond, really hurt them in the rankings. And I said this, I was saying this earlier, and I said this the day they lost. If they want to remain in the top 25, they're going to have to win tonight. If they want to get knocked out of the top 25, go 1-2, if they lose tonight, it's it for them. They're done. You could say goodbye to the top 25 for now. Not saying that they're not going to be back, but you're not going to have a top 25 team that's going to be 1-2 in the top 25. So they've got to win tonight. And I don't like to not see Kentucky be top 25 because I see them be top 25 so many times. I don't like that. But anyway, with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So last night's game, first we'll get to the game picks, then we'll get to last night's game. My game picks for this week was a very successful week. A very, 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 very successful week. Was definitely exciting. It was exciting to see that I did well this week for me on a personal level. Especially after last week's performance was not really good at all, obviously, just being that, the record was not very good last week, but obviously we were able to bounce back this week and have a good week. I went 11-4 this week, so far 11-4. Tomorrow's game is still got to be played, but so far I went 11-4. And I moved to, that bumps my record to 121 and 63 on the season for game picks. So it is, like I said, I'm excited. I think I'm doing pretty well, 121. I was not expecting to get to 120 this week. I did, so that kind of makes up for last week. And also, now my next goal is probably 130, 135. And then if I reach that, then, my next goal will be 140. So we just keep on bumping up. My first goal was 100, crack that. Second goal was like 105, 110, crack that. Third goal, 115, 120. We've hit that. So now let's keep on setting these goals. And obviously, and we got week 3. We still got one more game that's going to be played tomorrow, possibly played tomorrow with the Steelers and the Ravens. So that could either move me to 11-5 or 12-4. So for right now, I've been a 121 and 63. But at the moment, it was a successful week. Even if I get my pick tomorrow wrong, which I feel pretty confident when I pick tomorrow, even if I get it wrong, it's still a successful week. It's still 11-5. But hopefully I obviously get it right and make it 12-4. So overall, successful week for my game picks. Great to have that bounce back. I did not want to have another week where I was 7-6 or something like that. Just because if I wanted to really hit, 120, 130 possibly, I'm going to need to start to get some big win weeks. So now it's just to see how much wins I want to get, because I cracked 100, and that's what I said. I know I have these goals here, but I cracked 100, and now I just want to see how many picks I can get right, and by the end of the season, how many picks I get right. I'm still deciding on what I'm going to do with playoffs, if that's going to be its own category, or if I'm going to keep that with my regular season game picks. I might make that its own category, because regular season, 17 weeks, I got this, and then for the playoffs, and I'll rack up my overall record, but something like that. I'm still deciding, but obviously we still got some time there. So last night's game, like I said, was much better than the game on Sunday night, which was a 41-25 blowout. The Seattle Seahawks did, in fact, win 23-17, or at least that's what the score says. I always say this. The score is the score, and we get it. At 31, 23-17, 17-10, whatever the score is. Technically, though, this game yesterday was a 23-9 victory in the Seahawks' favor. Okay, Carson Wentz with 12 seconds left, chucks the ball downfield, gets deflected. Jalen Reagor goes up. I think it was Jalen Reagor. He goes up, drops the ball, and it goes into the hands of Richard Rodgers for a 53-yard. For I don't even know. What was it? Was it a 33-yard touchdown? I think it was a 33-yard touchdown. Whatever it was. And the ball, and I'll tell you what. I know the Eagles lost yesterday, but if you had to take something to take away from this game in a game that was a whole lot of bad, it would be that touchdown. Because at least you have something to lean back on. But this game was overall, it was, and this just goes to show you, and I've said this so many times, and I was talking to people earlier today. We all understand the Seahawks defense at the beginning of the year and even throughout the middle of the year, and now finally they're getting better. That Rams game, the Cardinals game, and now this Eagles game, their defense is improving. Jamal Adams has made some improvement. But this is a defense now that in the right time is starting to make plays and starting to make big stops at the right time. Not just that it's this isn't just because either that it's at the beginning of that it's near the playoffs and at the end of the season, but also because your offense has been struggling the past couple of weeks. Russell Wilson did not play that great last night. He played decent, but it wasn't amazing. He went 22 of 31, one touchdown, 230 yards. It wasn't really that good. He wasn't a stellar game. He's had games this season where he's thrown 4 touchdowns. And I don't think the Eagles' defense either is that good either. So, overall, the Seahawks did not play their best game yesterday. But their defense stepped up in big moments of that game. They stepped up in big moments of that game, right? They've done that. They did that yesterday, and they continue to do it. Against the Cardinals, the offense wasn't amazing. They stepped up, won the game, right? Their offense wasn't amazing. Russell Wilson had, 2 touchdowns only, and he's got 2 touchdowns. He only had 197 yards. The offense wasn't stellar. He did take 3 sacks, but their defense also played very well. They sacked Kyler Murray 3 times. They had a lot of plays in that game where they were able to cause pressure on him. And they also took advantage. Kyler Murray had a little bit of a shoulder injury that Thursday night game. They also took advantage of him, and they stopped the pass, and they were able to really stop his running ability. So he had to throw the ball. And I noticed that yesterday. They forced Carson Wentz into a lot of bad throws. A lot of different coverages. They threw a lot of different coverages. Now don't get me wrong. There was a couple of throws in there where, Carson Wentz might have, there's a couple of throws in there where Carson Wentz could have, maybe, it was a miscommunication or something. But overall, the one was, there was a couple in there. I know Carson Wentz's one interception, that was just awful. It was awful on Carson Wentz's part, and I think, too, he read the defense wrong. There was 3 defensive backs around his guy. I don't know if he thought he was going to cut across the middle, if he was doing a 5-yard comeback. I don't know what he thought the guy was doing, but he just threw the ball up, and the Seahawks took advantage of it. They took advantage of Carson Wentz's mistakes, and they also forced Carson Wentz into mistakes. This Seahawks defense should deserve a lot of credit because it's a team that has started to turn it around. Their offense isn't playing the best. Russell Wilson, I do think, has really lost his whole MVP talk right now. Their offense isn't playing the best. Russell Wilson has been mad the past couple games. I know, he's still throwing 1 touchdown and stuff, but that's not going to get you the job done if you're playing against some of these higher grade offenses in the league. Luckily, they're playing the Eagles last night. This was not the best win ever, but at the end of the day, and I always say this, a win is a win, and a loss is a loss. It does this win will not go down into the category win, but we got to play better. We did not play great. This will go into the win category, and the same thing with the Eagles. This isn't going to go into the loss. Oh, but we stopped Russell Wilson and only had him throw one touchdown. This is going to go into the loss category. So at the end of the day, the Seahawks got the win and the Eagles got the loss. And I don't even want to say so much. I mean, the Seahawks, I guess, were the better team, but they didn't even play that good either. The Seahawks didn't play that good either, is what I'm trying to say. So, the Seahawks did get the win. I expected a lot more of points. I expected a lot more scoring. For all this hype going into Darius Slay, DK Metcalf took advantage of that. He used his size, he used his strength against Darius Slay. Things got heated early on in that game. And when I saw that, I was a little concerned. Because when things get heated early on in the games, that could throw a player like that right off. And I think that did do that to Darius Slay. Slay was with Metcalf. They were fighting early on. They had a little bit of that brawl early on in the game. And all of a sudden, I think Slay said it in his post game, and I think he even posted it or something. He even said that was on me. And when I saw that brawl early on in the game, I was like, oh boy, this is going to be a long game. Because that, not only does it hurt the cornerback, that could also hurt the receiver. Because all you're worried about is just taking the other guy's head off. And you're not focused on the game. That's what happened to Mike Evans and I think Lattimore a couple weeks ago. I think it was, right? A couple weeks ago, I think Marshawn Lattimore and Evans. I'm pretty sure. It happened a couple weeks ago, yeah. I think Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore, they were going against each other, and they were just focused on taking each other's heads off. And if I'm not mistaken, Marshawn Lattimore won that battle because they were focused on taking each other's heads off. And I think Mike Evans only had 64 yards of receiving. Right? A lot of times that could happen. But overall, the Seahawks defense deserves a lot of credit for this win. I give the Seahawks, if I had to give a grade, I don't usually give out grades that much. If I had to give a grade to the Seahawks defense, though, if I had to, I would give them an A. An A or an A+, because I thought they played very well. A+ would be stellar. They weren't stellar, but they were very good. And at moments in that game, they did show. I mean, they held Carson Wentz to a 73.8 rating. And he also went 25 of 45 passing. So, and they forced a lot of pressure on him, too. Not only were there 3 sacks, there was a lot of pressure. I mean, if you look at the game, not a lot of people always calculate the pressures, but there was a lot of times Wentz had to roll out or was getting pressured and had to throw the ball away. That forced a lot of his incompletions. Wentz, not all those incompletions were on him. It was just, this offensive line is just so banged up. And that's another thing. They took advantage of that. They ran a lot of blitzes. They ran a lot of 4 or 5 guys up on that defense line. They took advantage of a lot of backups, a lot of injuries on that offense line. They took advantage of that, and they really went after Wentz. As for the Eagles, their offense looked horrendous again. I mean, I said it. I said it just now. I mean, the Seahawks defense played good, and the Seahawks defense has not been playing good this entire season outside of these past 3 games. But if you're the Eagles, before going into this game, you got to think, we're playing against a Seahawks defense. Outside of the last 2 games, this is a team that has done nothing on defense. We got to take advantage of that. Throw the ball deep, right? Get some run plays going. Get some sort of rhythm. This team had 5 drives. Their first 5 drives, they had a total of 4 yards. A total of 4 yards in their first 5 drives. That's not going to get it done. And you are lucky the Seahawks had an off day on offense because the Seahawks did not score in the first quarter. You are lucky this Seahawks team had an off day on offense. Because if they were on, this game would have been 21-0 out of that first quarter. And you want to know why? This 18 had 5 drives and 4 yards. You cannot possibly win a football game with that. I don't care what defense you're playing against. You're not going to win a football game with that. And they did lose. And like I said, outside of that last touchdown by Wentz, realistically, Wentz only threw a touchdown and an interception, and his rating probably drops. Outside of that last Hail Mary, and realistically, it wasn't. I mean, I'm not really gonna take away. I couldn't believe when I saw it. I mean, the ball dropped out of his hands, and the guy caught it on the ground one-handed. It was a good play, but for touchdowns, it actually mattered. There was one for the Philadelphia Eagles. They just can't move the ball. I mean, they really can't. And I've said this, and I don't always like to. I mean, I'm pretty hard on quarterbacks. I am. If they have a couple bad games, I'm usually that guy. I'm a short leash with quarterbacks. I'm very patient with Darnold. Part of the reason he is the Jets quarterback, and I also feel like the situation he's been in, I've been trying to be patient with Darnold. I'm pretty much at my end with Darnold. I mean, I like the guy and stuff. I really do. I think he's a very good guy. He doesn't cause any problems off the field. But I think his time with the Jets is probably coming near an end, and I do think it is smart to get Lawrence and start a new era with a new head coach and a couple new receivers outside of maybe Mims, and if we re-sign Perryman. I don't know if Crowder's going. I mean, Crowder, I don't know what he's going to do. He's also getting up there in age. I don't know what Crowder's going to do. But if we can get all three of those guys back, and then plus whatever we might get in the draft, I understand, but that's the same thing with me and the Jets right now. And I don't want to get off topic, but I do believe that, it is in the right for Darnold to leave New York and go to another team. Start fresh. It would be fresh starts for both teams. It would be a fresh start for Darnold. He goes somewhere else with a head coach, learn the system, right? And it would be a fresh start for the Jets. Bring in Lawrence, bring in a new head coach, bring in the new system, and go from there. It would be a fresh start for both, not only the Jets, but it would also be a fresh start for Darnold. Same thing with Wentz. I think Wentz, I said coming out of college, I did not think Wentz was that good of a quarterback. I've always thought he was overrated coming out of college. He's coming out of a small school in North Dakota State. He never played up against great competition. He had that one insane season. But Wentz has struggled. I think Wentz is one of the worst quarterbacks in the league right now. I mean, he really has struggled. I mean, Wentz has not played well at all. And another guy, too. He's not a bad guy. He's smart. He can play. He's shown flashes. Right? He has shown flashes. But I also think it would be a fresh start, too, for that team if you bring in Jalen Hurts, their backup, let him start, get him some new receivers. I don't want to say this because I don't think Doug Peterson's that bad of a coach, but maybe get rid of Doug Peterson. Right? He had a nice run there. He won a Super Bowl. That's really all you can ask for. Bring in a new head coach. Have Jalen Hurts as your quarterback, maybe bring in a couple new receivers, and move on from there, and have Wentz go to another team with a new head coach, new receivers, and start fresh. One of those things, too. It would be good for both. It would be good for the Eagles, and it would be good for Carson Wentz. Because what I've seen out of Carson Wentz is a guy that I don't think is going to be able to be your franchise quarterback. And I said the same thing about Darnold. What I've seen out of Darnold with the New York Jets is not going to be the Jets' future. I think he could be the future elsewhere. Could he be the future with the Colts? I mean, the Colts got a lot of young assets there. Mo Alley Cox, Michael Pittman. You got a lot of young assets with the Colts. Could he go to the Colts? Yes, that's a possibility. Phillip Rivers is not the future. You also got to realize, too, he's going to a good defense, possibly Darnold. He's going to a good defense. And that's another thing, too. This Eagles defense is not that good. This Eagles defense, it's not awful, but it's not amazing. If Carson Wentz goes to another team with a defense, there's been a couple times this season where he's needed to be in shootout games, and that hasn't happened. So, the Eagles, too, I mean, they're still technically in the division race. Let's see. I mean, I'm trying to see. So their schedule, I mean, they're not out of it. They're really not. But their schedule's another brutal one, too. I mean, the Packers, Saints, Cardinals, so that's 3-10-1. And then the Eagles and the Cowboys and Washington, you might get yourself at 5-10-1. I mean, Washington, I don't think you win there. So you might get 4-11-1. That might be the way they finish their year. And that's just so crazy. This is an Eagles team, people. That wasn't that long ago when Carson Wentz went off in 2017. And they said that last night on the broadcast. I mean, back in that game where he injured his knee in Los Angeles that ended his MVP caliber season, the year that they won the Super Bowl. That is not that long ago. It really isn't. It might feel like that, but it really is not. It's only, 3 years ago? It's not that long ago. It's really not. Same thing with Darnold being drafted is not that long ago. Wentz, that run with the Eagles that season really is not that long ago. And it just goes to show you how much you can move. Since that, it's just crazy how much you could do moving in the NFL. Since that Super Bowl, Nick Foles went to the Jaguars, played 7 snaps, injured his horse collar, done for the year. Now he's with the Bears, injured again, Mitch Trubisky's in. Carson Wentz got injured that season. They won the Super Bowl. Carson Wentz comes back, gets injured, misses a playoff game. Now this season, he's got to be in the bottom of the league at quarterbacks, and their Eagles are 3-7-1. That's how much changed in just a couple of years. It is really crazy how much can change in any sports. Any sports. I mean, it's crazy. Look at the Yankees, for example. They're only 3 years ago, they went to Game 7 of the ALCS, and now the Yankees can't even get back to the ALCS. I mean, they did 2 years ago or whatever. They did, not this year. They did last year, but they looked awful doing it. So the Seahawks, Russell Wilson went 22 of 31, 230 yards, 10.5 was his average. And touchdowns, he had 1 touchdown. He had 2 sacks. He endured 2 sacks. Rating was 102.9. Chris Carson had 8 carries for 41 yards. 5.1 was his average. He had a touchdown. Carlos, I was surprised. Carlos Hyde got a ton of carries. I'm surprised because you have Chris Carson there. I don't know why they weren't running him that much. Carlos Hyde had 15 carries, 22 yards, 1.5 was his average. He didn't have that good of a game. I don't know why they kept on running him. DK Metcalf had 13 targets, 10 catches, 177 yards. Tyler Lockett, 3 catches, 23 yards. Chris Carson, 18 yards on 2 catches. And I'll say this about DK. And I'm not trying to sit here and tell you, this, and this about DK. But DK yesterday did a very good job of not letting that Darius Slay, the fight, all the stuff the Eagles said about DK, let that bother him. Right? He said that. He didn't allow that to let him bother him. And as a young player in the league, only second year, it is good to do that. And I'm not trying to say, that he's because DK can probably be some cocky himself, but he went out there, he got into the little scrum early on in the game, but he put that in his rear view, he went out there and played. He did not, all the stuff that the defensive coordinator said about him, what was going on during the week and in the game with Darius Slay. He put that stuff behind him and said, you know what? What's best for my team? Me go out there and try to take another guy's head off, or me go out there and help my team win an important game. He did that. He focused on winning the game, and he got them, and he did very well for them. So that's one thing I just want to say about DK, because he took advantage of that. Darius Slay was trying to tear his head off while DK calmed down and went out there and did his thing and had a good game. Carson Wentz went 25 of 45, 215 yards, 8.6 was his average, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He took 6 sacks and a rating of 73.8. It was unbelievable. And that's why, Wentz is having an awful year, but I feel like Wentz is similar to Darnold right now, because Darnold's in a bad position. No offensive line. His receiving core isn't amazing. Same with Wentz. Receiving core isn't amazing and no offensive line. Jalen Hurts went 101, 6 yards. Rating of 91.7. Obviously, he only had 1 throw. Carson Wentz had 5 carries for 42 yards. Miles Sanders, he was quiet yesterday. He only had 6 carries for 15 yards. 2.5 was his average. They only ran the ball that game yesterday, 14 times, compared to him throwing the ball 45, which I don't know why they did that. I mean, you got to give Miles Sanders more carries than just 6. That's not going to get the job done. The receiving, Dallas Goedert had 7 catches for 75 yards and a touchdown. Richard Rodgers, 3 catches, 53 yards and a touchdown. Boston Scott had 40 yards on 5 catches. Who's been quiet? Alshon Jeffrey, since he's came back. He hasn't done much. Yesterday, he had 2 catches for 15 yards. Hasn't done much. Seahawks, all these sacks. Jamal Adams got a sack. KJ Wright got a sack. Ford got a sack. Reed got a half a sack. Dunlap got a half a sack. Maiola got a sack. And Green got a sack. It just goes to show you how... I mean, this team has a lot of big names on it, this defense. They just got to start to work together and get some and start to do well. So the Seahawks went 23-17. Eagles moved to 3-7-1 on the season, and the Seahawks moved to 8-3-1. And now the Seahawks are in prime position to take that division. It is currently the Seahawks 8-3, the Rams 7-4, the Cardinals 6-5, and the Niners 5-6. I mean, the day I was talking about the Niners, I said to them, you could throw them out. I was taking some of my teams, and I took the Jaguars, threw them off the table. Niners threw them off the table, and the Jets threw them off the table. That's what I was saying when I was trying to find out who wins the division. Not saying that the Niners aren't going to win a division, but I mean, let me see. What is the Niners' upcoming schedule? Let's see. But I mean, not saying that the Niners are going to win the division, but the Niners are 5-6. And you look at their upcoming schedule, you got the Bills, Washington, Cowboys, Cardinals, and Seahawks. So it's tough, but it is a very good possibility that week 16, that week 17 game against the Seahawks, there's a very good possibility 90% of those starters aren't playing in that game. Unless if they clinch the first round bye and they want them to play instead of having the 2 weeks off. But there's still a very good chance that, there's still a good shot. So you just got to watch out for that. The Bills, you're probably going to lose there. Washington could be a close game. Like I said, I think that's winnable for Washington and it's winnable for the Niners. And then the Cowboys, that's a win. So that puts you at 6. If you want to try to find a way to somehow turn the season around and maybe go 8-8 or 9-7, you got to find a way to beat the Bills on Monday night if you're the Niners. And I know I'm going off a little off topic here, but I'm just talking about the NFC West in general, which goes back to the Seahawks. If you want to not win this division, you're not going to. The Seahawks are 8-3, you're 5-6. You're going to have to win out, and the Seahawks are going to have to lose out. All the other teams are literally going to have to lose. You're not going to win a division. But, realistically speaking, if you want to somehow, some way, this not even means go to the playoffs. This doesn't mean go to the playoffs, but maybe finish 8-8. You got to find a way to catch the Bills off guard, maybe. Maybe that would put you at 6-6, which would put you in a prime position, because then you play Washington, which is winnable. Same thing. I've said it's the same thing with Washington. Washington, that's a winnable game for Washington, and that's also a winnable game for the 49ers. So let's say we give the dub to the Niners or the loss to the Niners. That would put them at 7-6. 8-6. 8-8. You lose to Washington, that's 6-7, but then you come back and beat the Cowboys. That's 7-7. This is if you beat the Bills. I don't think they're going to beat the Bills, but you got to find a way to at least beat one of those good teams, either the Cardinals, Seahawks, or Bills. You got to find a way to at least beat one of them. I know it's going to be difficult, but you got to find a way. I mean, the Patriots just beat the Cardinals, so I guess there's a chance there. But I mean, the Bills, I'm not saying it's going to happen. Like I said, I'm not saying this is going to happen. This is all just speculation. That's why I don't like always doing this. I'm not saying this is going to happen. This is just all speculation. I'm not saying the 49ers are going to make the playoffs either. I'm just showing you that with everybody talking how bad they are, and I've been a big person to say that, I've been talking about how much of a lost season this is for them, how much there's been talk around them. They're still not completely out of it to become maybe an 8-8 football team. Because they have arguably, you could say, 2 winnable games left on their schedule, which is Washington and Cowboys. I would say the same exact thing for Washington. And you also have 3 hard games, but if you find a way to maybe squeak out, which you just squeaked out against the Rams, that's a very hard game to win. They just squeaked that out. Maybe then you go 8-8. That's all I'm saying. Because I'm very surprised that this San Francisco team right now is sitting at 5-6. I would have, if you would have told me, I would have thought they were 4-7 at the end of this week. So there is still, I guess, a slim chance there. Let's just take a look at the Week 13 games, and then we'll go on to my fantasy. Jets, Raiders, Dolphins, Bengals, Titans, Browns, Texans, Colts, Jaguars, Vikings, Lions, Bears, Saints, Falcons, Giants, Seahawks, Rams, Cardinals, Eagles, Packers, Patriots, Chargers, Packers, Chiefs, or Broncos, Chiefs, sorry. Packers, Eagles, Chargers, Patriots, Broncos, Chiefs, Washington, Steelers. That game's on Monday at 5, by the way. So that's going to be an interesting game. Cowboys, Ravens, and that game's also on Monday. There's 3 Monday games, and you got Bills, Niners. There's 3 Monday games. There's the Washington and there's the Steelers, Washington. That's at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Then Cowboys, Ravens, that's at 8. And then you got the Bills, 49ers, that's at 8 as well. Jeez, there's 3 games on Monday. There's going to be 2 games on that at the same time. That's going to be actually pretty fun. Broncos, Chiefs is Sunday night game. Right now, the Seahawks open up as 10-point favorites. And, by the way, the Raiders open up as 8 against the New York Jets. Not surprised. Actually, I kind of am. I was expecting maybe 10, not 8. 8's pretty low. You should put up like 14. The Jets lose every week by that. You should put up like, yeah. But yeah, let me see actually this. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Okay. So yeah, obviously it's going to be a It's going to be good. So anyway, so now we move on to fantasy football coming up next. Okay. So now we move on to fantasy football. We got two good games. So one of my leagues, obviously I won. And the other one, it's not completely over, but it is. The chances are slimmer. Chris Carson last night got me everything I could have asked for. He did everything I could have asked for. He did everything I needed him to do, right? He did everything I needed him to do for me. He got me 11 points, which was lower than projected, but like I said, it's 11 points. I'll take it. I needed him to get me a touchdown. He got me a touchdown. Chris Carson, it's not one of those things where you're sitting here telling yourself, oh my gosh, that was an insane stat line. It wasn't anything of those. It was just the fact that he had a good game. He had 11 points, 8 carries, 41 yards, and a touchdown. He had a very quality game for fantasy. He went out there, did good, got me points. That's all that matters. I was hoping that he got me that touchdown. He got me that big 16-yard touchdown, which was good. I obviously read to you yesterday my total points, but at the moment, this is where I stand in this league, 86-65. And with that last night, I am officially, if I make the playoffs, which I'm on a very good pace to do, it looks like I am officially going to be the 4 seed in the playoffs. So I'm not going to be the 1 seed, I'm not going to be the 3 seed. There was a possibility, but the person that I needed to lose this week, they've clinched their 3 seed spot. So now all I have to do is just have hope that Chase Claypool does not get 22 points, and I will clinch my playoff spot. And the playoffs you see on here is the playoffs for the season. So I'm in a pretty good position, I would say, to make the playoffs. Even if I lose this week, the chances of the other player in our league making the playoffs are slim to none. It's very slim. He's down. He's got like 200 less points than me, plus all that I've gotten this week. Plus he would need like 170. It's very difficult. I'm hoping I win this week because I don't want to go into the playoffs like 6-7. There's still a chance because if I'm playing the best person in my league next week, so I still might finish 6-7. But I don't want to lose this week, go 5-7, and then make the playoffs of 5-8. That would just be ugly. I would rather win this week, go to 5-6 or 6-6, and if I lose next week, at least I go in at 6-7. I don't want to go in 5-8. I will tell you that for sure, because I don't think I'll win next week. That's going to be hard. But obviously, my hope is that. I've got some decisions to make, I'll tell you that for sure. This is probably going to be one of my more big decision weeks in this league. What am I going to do with Elliott? What am I going to do with Eckler? What am I going to do with Gurley, right? Carson's going to start. He's been consistent, so I'm starting Carson. It's going to come down to those next 3 players. One of them is going to sit the bench. I don't know who it's going to be. One of them is going to sit the bench. And DJ Moore also questionable, so he's not going to probably be in. But one of those guys is going to sit the bench. I've got to make that decision. At the moment, I'm leaning towards Elliott, but it also depends on how the week goes. Because if Gurley's out, then I have to play Elliott. Gurley was out this week. If Gurley's out another week, then I have to play Elliott. I don't have to, but that would probably be the smart choice. Even then, I don't know. I'm leaning towards benching Elliott. Know that I'm leaning towards benching Elliott. It just also depends on, are my other players healthy? Because if Gurley's not healthy, then, okay, who's going to be my flex? Is it going to be Allen Robinson? Allen Robinson maybe, but they're going against a bad Detroit team, so maybe Allen Robinson. But that also doesn't give me room for Gurley and Eckler. Then where do I put them? Because let's just say Gurley plays. Where am I going to put in Gurley? Am I going to put in Robinson? This is probably one of my more bigger decision weeks. Because I'm kind of done with Elliott, right? Elliott, he had that big week. I can't bench him after he had a 17-point week. I thought maybe that's the start of something. Has another bad week, 1 point, going against Baltimore. I might start him against Cincinnati just because their defense is horrendous. But even Baltimore, their defensive front's pretty good. I don't know. I think that's just for all leagues too. Unless if you're really slim in running backs, or Elliott's not horrible for starting. It's not, but you could definitely tell he's not what Elliott used to be. I'll tell you that for sure. Now I move on to my other league. At the moment, I'm winning in my other league 202 to 88. He's still got Deontay Johnson. I don't foresee Deontay Johnson getting 124 points. So I don't even want to really say it because it's pretty outrageous. But yeah, obviously it's looks like I won in this league. It's pretty much impossible for Deontay Johnson to do that. It is impossible. I mean, nothing's I guess technically, mathematically. 10 touchdowns and like 200 yards, I guess. But that you literally have to throw it to him that whole game. And if he already scores 5 touchdowns, they're going to start to double him. So I do win in this league 202 to 88. He's still got Deontay Johnson. So, I guess maybe he might hit 100, which is, 12 points for a receiver is definitely possible. But yeah, I'm going to move to 7-5 this league. And, I'm going to move to 7-5 in this league. And this puts me in a prime position to possibly move all the way up to the 2 seed. There's still a chance. So, obviously, I hope that's the case, and hopefully I squeak in. So that's kind of the gist of fantasy for the week. By the way, I also just started a fantasy basketball league. I will keep you guys updated on that. I will do my normal fantasy football stuff still, even when fantasy basketball starts. We'll do a little bit of a combination on it as well. So obviously I started that, which is good. I'm hoping, it goes well, fantasy basketball. I'm going to be holding my draft probably in like a week or two, because the season starts December 22nd, so I told everyone in my league, I'm going to make the league on December 1st. So, not that. We kind of thought of the idea yesterday. I was going to make a league, but I found everyone to do it yesterday, so I just made it today. But yeah, I'll keep you guys updated on that as well, the fantasy basketball stuff. We're not doing our draft yet. It'll probably be 2 weeks from now, maybe 1 or 2 weeks from now. I don't want to do the draft today. I don't want to do it too early, but I also don't want to do it day before the season. So we did our fantasy football draft about like 2 weeks before the NFL season started. So I'll probably do the same thing with fantasy. So probably like 2 weeks from now, I guess, which is the 14th. So about probably 2 weeks from now. Was when I'll do my fantasy basketball draft. I usually do it about 2 weeks just because it's, you're doing it like at the right day. If we do it today, that's too early. We also don't want to do it like a day before the games. That's just not, I don't know. I just think that's clutter. I don't know. I just don't think it's a good idea. But you also don't want to do it too early because one, it's just early. Like some people I've already known drafted because you could tell. Not just the fact that is that, you don't want to do it too early, but you also don't want to do it, too late either. Because if you're a day before the games and you're doing your draft, I guess that's not awful. But if you're too early too, then, there's a chance of a player getting injured, you drafting him and not having him. So if you do it in that middle range and the guys aren't getting injured, then you're in a pretty prime position. These are the positions. We have point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center, guard, forward. And then you have 3 utility spots and 3 bench spots. So it's a little different with fantasy basketball. But the whole gist of it, the utility is technically the flex guy. You could put anyone there as your utility guy. So it's pretty much like a fantasy football kind of thing. Utility like is a flex, but it's a little different. You also only have 3 bench spots in fantasy. You only have 3 bench spots in fantasy basketball compared to fantasy football where you have 7 bench spots and then 1 IR, depending on what league you're in. You could either have 6 bench spots, 7 bench spots, and an IR. So definitely, that's why there's a lot more decision making in fantasy basketball too, because you have little bench spots. So you're dropping and picking up a lot more guys. If one guy's out, you can't just stick him on your bench because you only have 3 spots. So you got to make some more moves there. So fantasy basketball is very active. It's every day. You have to do your lineup every day. So it's definitely something you have to be stuck to, or else you're just not gonna, I guess, do well. And if you forget to do your lineup one day, it's not the end of the world. But if it becomes where you're not doing it at all, then it's definitely a problem. As for fantasy football, you literally could go on Sunday morning and do it and be done. So stuff is gonna be interesting. But yeah. So what's it said? Okay, so today obviously was the first day of training camp for the NBA. was the first day of training camp for the Brooklyn Nets and the first day of training camp for the New York Knicks. So there's obviously a lot of hype around the Brooklyn Nets this season, whether that's Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, Dinwiddie. There's been a ton of offseason stuff. Is Harden going to come here? What's this and this and this going to be? Harden looks like he's not going to come here. But obviously, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm very excited for the basketball season. Obviously, excited for college basketball. College basketball is in session now. Now I'm excited for NBA. So hopefully, the NBA season is smooth as well. Hopefully, the NBA season's a smooth season and we don't get too many cancellations. The NBA is going to be like the MLB. You're going to have games every other day. Games are every day for the MLB, but for the NBA, it's close. It's not like you have one game a week. So, they got to make sure the restrictions are good because if you have a cancellation, that could completely mess up like a whole week of games. So, that's obviously going to be interesting there. But yeah, there's a lot of hype around. There's a lot of hype around the Nets and the whole Nets and Kyrie and Kevin Durant and obviously me being a Nets fan, I'm very excited for it. I think it's going to be a good season. I'm optimistic that we're gonna have a good season. Last season I knew, when Nets fans, when we got Kevin Durant, it was great news and everything. But now is officially the time him and Kyrie are gonna come together and try to bring ultimately what is a championship here. And this is an organization that has not had too much success, I would say. They don't have a championship for the NBA. They do have an ABA championship, but they do not have an NBA championship. So, for KD and Kyrie to come here, this has always been a Nets team that has always been known for the one-year contract team. Oh, you come here, play decent, okay, there you go. This has never been a team that has been known to pay these guys this amount of money to get Kyrie, to get KD, to get all these big-name guys. And I know a lot of people, if you're a Nets fan, you might have wanted James Harden. But I was talking to someone this when all these rumors happened, and just trades in general. We all get it. James Harden is very good and everything, right? We all get it. He's amazing. He's this. He's that. He's this, right? We all understand that. But at the same time, we also understand that we would have had to give up literally our entire future for Kevin Durant. Whether that's Dinwiddie, whether that's LeVert, whether that's Allen, whether that's Claxton, right? You would have had to give up a whole lot. And I feel like the Nets right now, too, to kind of give you a little bit of a preview, I feel like they're in a good position right now. I feel like they're in a pretty good, stable position to make a run for ultimately the NBA championship. You have KD, you have Kyrie, you have LeVert, you have Allen, you have Joe Harris, you have Dinwiddie, who I'm not a big fan of, but he could still, sometimes shoot and be decent. He's not I don't like Dinwiddie. I think he's a ball hog, but still, you got some of these guys. And also, when you're talking about if Harden would have came to the Nets, you're talking about 3 ball-dominant players. You're talking about Harden ball-dominant, KD ball-dominant, Kyrie ball-dominant. The past has told us that 3 ball-dominant players does not work. Some examples, look what happened in OKC. You had Harden, KD, and Russell Westbrook. 3 ball-dominant players. That did not work. They did get to a final, but ultimately, it was not, ideal, right? And, you look at some of these past teams, even with the Bulls, they had, I don't want to say that we had they didn't have ball-dominant players. Michael Jordan was ball-dominant, but Michael Jordan led that team. That's why it was so successful. You look what happened with Harden and Westbrook. Those are 2 very ball-dominant players. How's that working for them? That's why I'm optimistic, but at the same time, KD and Kyrie have to learn you got to share the ball. It's not just the 2 of you on the court. And I understand it might seem like that because when you think of the Nets right now, KD and Kyrie come to the top of your head. But you also got to realize Harris, very good 3-point shooter, LeVert, Allen, right? Guys like that. You also got to realize those are other guys too on the court. So I'm very happy. And I'm also optimistic that Kevin Durant will return. Now, do I think he's going to return and be what he was? You can't really say that. But I do think he'll return. I think all this talk around, he's coming from an Achilles injury, and I understand Achilles injury is an awful injury, and you look at the players that have got it, and they've never came back the same. But I'm optimistic, too, that he will come back. Will he be what he was? You got to find out when you're watching the games. You can't say that right now. Because, yes, the past tells you with the past players having it, whether that was some guys a couple years ago, whatever, it does tell you that it does affect your career. But KD could be a completely different person. Everyone says he's been looking even better before the Achilles injury. I don't know the guy's name, but he actually came back better after the Achilles injury than he did before the Achilles injury. That's a rare occurrence. Hopefully that's the case. And like I said, I'm excited for the season for the Nets and for Kevin Durant and Kyrie. And I'm also just excited to see this NBA season again. Because we've obviously when Kevin Durant and KD got signed, you realize, oh my gosh, it's going to be a full-on year and a half or so before they get to step on the court together. And obviously with the whole virus situation, they would have already, without the virus, we would have already been in full swing. It would have been December right now. Season starts in October. Without the virus, obviously with the virus, you obviously had the restart and stuff. So, and obviously I'm excited. I'm excited to see what the Brooklyn Nets do this season. I'm excited to see what KD and Kyrie bring here. Obviously, there's a lot of hype around the team. And that's another thing, too. The Nets are receiving a lot of hype. They're getting a lot of talk. But, they've also got to realize, you got to focus and stuff, right? I know KD and Kyrie are very used to the hype and talk. They've been in big moments. They've won championships. They've been in big games. And I understand that. We also got to hone in and really focus on, we got to win this team. We got to win this games. Everyone's talking about us. If we don't succeed and we don't do well, everyone's going to be bashing us. So we got to make sure we do well. As for the Knicks, it's the same as always. It's another rebuilding year. I do think they had a very successful draft. I think Emmanuel Quickley out of Kentucky is going to be a good asset. I love their pick by Obi Toppin. As a matter of fact, I think the 8 teams that passed up on him, or the 7 teams that passed up on him, that's a mistake, I think, because I do think that he's a very good player. I was not expecting him to fall to the Knicks, and the Knicks obviously were able to get Obi Toppin, which was a very, very, very good move for the New York Knicks. I think he brings a lot to the table. He's a good defender. He's very athletic. He's a very good blocker. He can even shoot. He's strong. He gets to the rim, draws fouls, gets dunks. He's a very good player. I'm excited to see what he can bring to the table. If I was a Knicks fan, that would be very exciting. And like I said, the Knicks, this is not their season. It's the future for the Knicks. You have a lot of future guys on this team. I want to see what Kevin Knox does too. You got to bump up his minutes. I want to see what he does. You got Topman. You got R.J. Barrett. Mitchell Robinson, guys like that, new head coach, and Tom Thibodeau, Jalen Rose, or not Jalen Rose, I forget the guy's name, but, you got a new president of basketball operations and all that stuff, you got a new head coach, it's almost a fresh start for the New York Knicks, you got a new draft pick, you got 2 new first-round draft picks, if you're a Knicks fan right now, I'd feel very, 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 very confident about your future at the moment. At the moment, it's not about this season. You're not going to go out there and win 70 games, and you're not going to go out there and win 60 games and make the playoffs. Prove me wrong, but I don't think you're going to do that. I mean, you might win 30 games. You might win 20 games. You're rebuilding. You're building for the future right now, and I do think the Knicks are doing that. So, if you had to pick the exciting of the two, you would have to take the Nets. And I'm not saying that just because I'm a Nets fan, it's the truth. But the Knicks, like I said, you gotta hold, you gotta be patient, right? This is also a team, a couple years ago, they were making a playoff run. They're now rebuilding. So, and obviously it's going to be it's going to be fun. Now I move on to college basketball. There's no college football games on today, even small games, but there is college basketball on today. This would be great if I could get over here. UNC, North Carolina won yesterday, 78-51. Texas won 78-76. Today we got Kentucky and Kansas. Preview that one in just a second. Kansas, Indiana. I give Kansas the win. Although they did win. I would have took them anyway, I think. So Kansas 66-44. That game happened very early. It did. Virginia, St. Francis. I give Virginia the win. Wisconsin, Green Bay. Give Wisconsin the win. Villanova, Hartford. Give Villanova the win. Creighton, Nebraska, Omaha. Give Creighton the win. Duke, Michigan State. I give Duke the win there. Now I move on to the Kentucky game. Kentucky over-under is 143.5. Kansas is 4.5-point favorites, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ESPN. Going to be a fun game to watch. This is what I want to say about Kentucky. Okay, this is what I want to say about Kentucky. I said this yesterday as well. They missed a lot of open shots. Take those open shots. And Calipari said it earlier on today as well. You absolutely have to shoot more threes. They had a lot of open threes, and they were not taking them. Instead, they were passing them, trying to drive in. Then they would have an open look at the net, open shot. They don't get it. You have to shoot more. Shooting the ball's going to get you points. Passing and turning around, spinning, all that stuff isn't going to get you points. Shooting the ball is going to get you points. Like I said, I'm going to give the Kentucky the win here only because, if they lose today, I don't know. I mean, in my head, I don't really think they're going to win, but I'll give them the win just because I'm hopeful, I guess. Because for some reason, I just can't picture Kentucky falling to 1-2. And I know I said earlier on in the week and stuff, early on in the season, and that it's going to be growing. These are a lot of young guys. I mean, they're probably one of the youngest teams in the nation. They're going to have to grow. So, obviously, it's going to be exciting. But tune in for that game tonight. I'm very excited. Hopefully, you guys are as well. That's going to be a good game. We'll be back at it tomorrow. If the Steelers and Ravens game's played, I will talk about that game. Talk about Kentucky. And find another topic. Maybe some more MLB stuff. I think we've been all enjoying that. I've been talking a good amount of MLB on Wednesdays. So, something like that. With all that being said, that will do it for today's podcast. I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.